Is Michael Chandler really going to fight Islam Makhachev, or is he going to wait it out for Conor McGregor? And if Islam doesn't fight Chandler, who the hell will he fight next? Before we get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So Islam was set to fight Arman Sarukian, but Arman has received an 8-month suspension, and now the number one contender is out of the picture. So it's really difficult to actually figure out who Islam's going to fight next. But Michael Chandler said that he was offered the Islam Makhachev fight. Mark, first things first, do you believe Chandler?
I think by that it probably means it's in a video of Islam training and Michael got an hard on, got his UFC gloves on and started training on against the pads. That's probably what happened there. He's just so dying for a fight, and it's just as long as it's not the Irishman, so he's going to try and take the next best thing. When love or hate Michael Chandler, don't deserve it at all.
No, he
I
doesn't.
don't believe him, honestly.
I do believe him. I do believe that he was offered the fight, but in the sense of, I think what happens is, I'm not an expert in the booking, but I think, Hunter or Dana will call these fighters up and they'll suggest names like, okay, what about a fight with Islam? They just mention it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be fully booked. It's just right. Let's skirt some names around, see what's interesting, see what's not. And then, okay, right. Chandler says he'll fight Islam. Let's give Islam a call. Do you fancy fighting Chandler? No, fair enough. And that's it. It's done. And I think it's more of a testing the water period rather than, right, I've been offered a big fight. And I think Chandler's just trying to get the attention of Conor, really, isn't he? I think that's what he's truly trying to do here.
Yeah, just scooch him on. Oh, come on, hurry up. Just strap both your toes together, the one that's broken, and just crack on. Come on. I think he should have done that a while ago, but that's a different subject. I think he just should have moved on from the Conor fight altogether, but that's another
Well,
topic.
yeah. Well, that leads on to my next question. Do you think that he will fight Islam Makhachev if it's a true fight, or do you think he'll just wait it out for Conor?
I think he would, but honestly, I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but I don't think his heart would be in it. He's
No.
been waiting for this Conor fight for so long. He's put off other fights and put off training camps. He's gone through a season of The Ultimate Fighter. He's gone through an actual training camp just for the fight to be pulled. I
Yeah.
think he really had his heart set on Conor McGregor. And I think even though Islam is a title fight and ultimately a bigger prize, I don't think he'd really show up. I know that sounds ridiculous to say. Michael Chandler, pure professional, all his career, always have the most exciting fights, but it's not the fight he wanted. It's a very different fighter. It's Conor McGregor versus Islam Makhachev. And I don't think it'd really go his way at all. I don't think his heart would be in it, and I think he'd know that himself.
Yeah, 100%. I think it'd be a fun fight. I'd love to see Islam versus Chandler, but Chandler is focused on this fight, isn't he? And obviously Conor lies a lot, but he did say that Chandler has been offered 10 times his original pay to fight him. And even if that's like half true, that's still a big, big deal, isn't it? It's a lot of money to be left on the table. And I think Chandler knows that now. He's right. I'm near the end of my career. I need to make as much money as possible and set my family up for life and give myself that big name because win, lose, or draw against Connor, you become a star, don't you? He gets that notoriety and he gets that big pile of cash. So I think he's going to keep just waiting out for that. But if Chandler doesn't wait out and he does fight someone else, where does that leave Connor? And I know you don't particularly care, but who else would Connor fight if not Chandler?
Honestly, I've thought about this over the past few months when we've been in and out with Conor McGregor. And you're right, I ultimately don't care, but a name that always sticks in my mind, a fight that I'd love to see, is Conor McGregor versus Charles Oliveira. I think
Yeah.
that's a perfect fight for both guys. I think stylistically, it makes complete sense for those two to fight each other. You've got the big left hand that could finish it at any point. We
Yeah.
think or we presume that it's still there, but we're not too sure. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've got the jiu-jitsu game of Charles Oliveira that is ready to strike like a bloody cobra at any point. I think it's a match made in heaven. That I'm probably more excited for that fight if it was booked than him versus Michael Chandler, just because
Yeah.
I'm done with this fight.
Yeah.
First got announced a couple of years ago or something, didn't it?
Yeah, a long, long time now. It's at least been a year and a half, and now it's probably going to be 2.5 years by the time we actually see these guys fight. But yeah, I think that's a perfect fight. Charles Oliveira versus Conor McGregor is a match made in heaven, isn't it? It's a fight that I think both guys could win and win brutally.
Mm.
Like we could see Conor just flatten Oliveira because Oliveira gets knocked over by a light breeze. If Conor McGregor touches him, I think it's all over. But Charles has that fantastic grappling and that ability to get people down and get these submission wins. And so we could see him, both guys win quite brutally, I think, and it's such a fun fight. But I think for Conor, he could almost fight anyone, hasn't he? We've said this before, he can sell snow to the Eskimos. He can do what he wants. But I keep saying that I know a lot of people have lost interest in this fight, but for me, I still want to see the fight that never was. Conor McGregor versus Rafael dos Anjos. I think that's a perfect fight for either guy. I think they're both now later in that bit of their career. They've both got the name value. There's some real tension between them. And I think it's a fight that Conor could quite easily win. It's one that I'll really lay him back up to get back into that division. And I don't normally like the idea of warm-up fights, but I think someone coming off an injury needs an easier opponent, to be honest. And I think jumping in with the Sharks isn't necessarily the best idea for Conor.
Well, that's the thing, because half of the fan base think Conor is still the Conor from 2016 when you think it's nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But again, this will probably divide people who might listen to this, but there's an argument out there that Conor's only brought casual fans anyway. A section of fans have maybe just become UFC fans, but they aren't UFC fans, they're Conor McGregor fans. And a lot of people have probably forgotten all about RDA. As sad as that sounds to say, because he was champion and he was an excellent fighter. I mean, when was his last fight? Off the top of your head, I can't actually remember.
Not a clue. Not a clue.
with Conor, I know, like
Let me Google it and I'll edit it in so I look right clever. Let me do it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 100% pick rate as well. You remember? But like with Conor, I know we said that he could fight, well, an Irish man in a pub and it'd still be entertaining, knock him off his bar stool. But in the UFC realm, do you remember when he said he wanted to fight Diego Sanchez a couple of years ago? And even Dana's like, no.
And Frankie Edgar as well. It's like, come on, mate.
Yeah, you're like, you've got to sort of ride with the waves. Like the next fight, we've said it a million times, the next fight will tell where Conor McGregor is. We haven't known since 2021.
We've known where he's been in the Black Forge having a fun time.
Oh, he's got a cold. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, a big cold. But now, Mark, let's forget about Conor. Let's forget about Chandler. Let's talk about some fights that actually matter. If Islam is really waiting 8 months for a new opponent, who do you think he should fight next instead of Arman?
The one fight that you put into my head and that I couldn't get out of it since, I think Max Holloway, the BMF champion, should step up. Forget about trying to get that featherweight gold again. Come up after knocking a Justin Gaethje out and dominating him for 5 rounds. Come up and take that belt, Max, if you can. What a fight that'd be. I don't think it'd go Max's way entirely just because of the size and strength, but that would sell. What do you think? Is there any opponent in mind for Islam Makhachev?
No, that's the fight that I definitely want to see. Max Holloway versus Islam Makhachev. It's a match made in heaven, isn't it? It is perfect. And I don't know who I'd pick in it, because I think that Max who beat Justin Gaethje, I think he could beat anyone. I really, really do. The performance that he put on, he showed how fantastic he was. And I think a lot of people forgot who Max Holloway was until he stepped into that octagon. People just wrote him off and he stepped in and he put on a fantastic performance. But Mark, unfortunately, I think that fight's a bit of a pipe dream, because I think the real fight that's going to happen is Mateus Gamrot versus Islam Makhachev. If you look at the rankings, he's the highest ranked guy coming off a win. And I think it'll be a fun fight when it happens. Like, it'll be good in the octagon. But who cares, right?
There's
Like,
no backstory.
Really
There's no
cares?
nothing,
Yeah.
is there? There's a real strange thing, and I think you'll understand how I mean here. Islam Makhachev has only defended against Volkanovski twice, a featherweight, and Dustin Poirier. But it feels like he's cleaned out the division because of his streak before that. And it feels like, you throw a random name in there, Justin Gaethje. Well, he just got dominated by Max. No. Rafael
Charles Oliveira.
does he deserve it? No. Charles Oliveira beat him for the title. Doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
He just lost. Feels like there's no one suited to Islam Makhachev. So we have to start looking at external sources.
Yeah.
I.e. Max Holloway.
100%. And I think that's the ideal match up, isn't it? But I think Max is so focused on that 145 belt. I think that's something he really wants. I think, yeah, he'll pop up to 155, have a little nosy around, but 145 is his division. And, You know, he was the king of it for such a long time until Alexander Volkanovski came off and got rid of him 3 times. And I think he wants to pull that back. I think he wants to go down to that division, finish off Ilia Topuria, and get another one in with Alex. I think that's what he ideally wants to do.
Another one with Alex. I mean, a fourth one. It would sell, don't get me wrong, but I think, look, I'm a huge Max Holloway fan, but I'm also an Alexander Volkanovski fan.
Yeah.
Probably a bit more so. And this would be the time where Max diehard fans, where they say he finally beat him, he's proved he's a better fighter, and you go three against one. You know, it's like Tony Ferguson fans. If he can etch out his next win, they'd be like, "I told you, you still got it." You're like, "Well, yeah." If we just forget about that segment that was 4 years long, you know. But Max, he's one of the very, very rare fighters where when he's gone on, it wasn't even a losing skid because he fought people in between
Yeah,
Volkanovski. So
exactly.
it didn't affect his mindset one bit whatsoever, you know, and he still remained that static BMF. And I'm going to call him that. And I've never called anyone that before. It's so corny. And he's
But it
stuck there,
feels it though, doesn't it?
proving
That
why he's
BMF
there.
belt finally feels important. You're like, with that performance that Max put on, you think, wow, you know, he is this BMF. He is that guy. He really is. And I think putting on that fantastic performance and carrying that belt, it lifts it up, doesn't it? It makes it mean something, you know. It's now finally the Intercontinental Champion finally means something, you know.
Well, I do like the idea that it's getting defended a little bit more now because it was just a novelty thing when it first got announced, wasn't it? You know, and that was just a one-sided beating anyway. But this fight was quite one-sided. Justin Gaethje had his moments, but you couldn't write it better. You
No.
know, like Spielberg couldn't do a better job. You were doing so well. All it was violence personified all the way through the fight, and in the last 10 seconds to point down at the ground, like in classic Max Holloway style, let's finish this, let's go, and then to get it done with 1 second left with a brutal knockout, running off, screaming, you know, doing all this tensing up stuff, and then he's presented with the BMF belt by Mark Coleman. Spielberg couldn't do a better job at writing that. It was just written in the stars. It was perfect.
Yeah, it was literally perfect, wasn't it? But Mike, someone who could be moving up divisions, let's move away to someone else who could move up. Do you think Islam Makhachev would move up to 170 instead while he's waiting around and fight the winner of Leon versus Bilal?
I think so. And I think that's part of Islam's ego, to be honest. I know we've said before, it feels like he's cleaned out the lightweight division, even though he definitely hasn't.
Yeah.
It's just there's, you know, losses to and from. But I think Islam is going to try and run before he's been walking. You know,
Yeah.
like as in, yep, going to go up. I'm not waiting around for anyone. So if you're not going to present me with this, I'm going to go take it. You know,
Yeah.
if no one's going to present a challenge to him at lightweight, even though he's only had, what, 2 successful defenses? Two? Three.
Three.
Uh, three successful. Two against the same guy that was a featherweight. I
Yeah.
think he's just going to go straight up to welterweight, try and take that gold, and he does have a good shot.
Yeah, he really, really does. And that's the thing. I think facing someone like Leon or Bilal, it's someone he could beat. And it'd be a great story, but I'm bored of double champions. I really, really want people to solidify their own division first. But like you were saying, Islam has not cleared out the division. Like he's only beat Dustin. Well, and Oliveira. So he's beat 2 contenders in his own division. But because everyone's losing, everyone's getting battered, it feels like he has cleared out because it feels like there's no one ready to go. But I think that just shows how dangerous this lightweight division is, isn't it? You know, the top 10 can beat any other person in that division on the night. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's that top premier division, isn't it? And it's, you know, you get a loss, and then the next thing you know, you're fighting for a title, you know, or you're fighting some guy who's not even top 10. Look at Dustin, you know, he fought Benoit Saint Denis and then he got a title shot. You know, it's an ever moving division, isn't it?
That's it's the best and worst thing about this division. Like you say, it always has been the premier division, has been for a little while now. It's a bit up and down sometimes, but you've got, you know, you've exposed yourself to fantastic fights, i.e. Gaethje and Max Holloway. Dustin Poirier always brings it, win, lose or draw. Well, he only loses when it's a title shot, doesn't he? Charles Oliveira as well, like he turned the division around completely as well. I doubted him for a long time. Uh, and he's done so much for the division as well. It's constantly, like you say, it's always on the move. Even Benoit Saint Denis, yeah, he lost that fight, got knocked
He
out in
looked
the
good
second round.
doing it, though, didn't
The
he?
next time he fights, though, you'll be tuning in. You're like,
Oh
this
yeah.
guy, this for people who don't watch every single fight. Like, look, we've got lives. We can't watch every single fight that goes on, can we? But at the same time, oh, you see Benoit's fighting on that. Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Jump straight in. So it does so much for the other divisions. Eddie Alvarez did it for Dustin Poirier, don't forget.
yeah. Exactly. That's the thing. You get such a rub, don't you, in this division? If you fight one of these top guys, win, lose, or draw, you become a name. Like, look at Rafael Fiziev. You know, he lost to Justin, but like, oh, brilliant. I can't wait to see Rafael fight next. Same with Benoit Saint Denis. Same with Matthias Gam. Oh, no, never mind. I guess not. It doesn't work for everyone. But lightweight is definitely the premier division of the UFC, but it feels like it's going to be on hold for quite some time, and that's such a shame. But thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.